laws and our territories and the lands. So I think it's really important to ensure that everybody has a good understanding of that, especially when we're doing actions and when we're carrying out support for the Wet'suwet'en people. We should know exactly what we're doing and who we're talking about and how we're being asked to support people. But it's also central to the movement and what's happening in the world right now. This is about a pipeline. This is about a pipeline that wants to come through and destroy our territory. It's about a corridor for many, many pipelines that want to come through and destroy our territory. But it's not just that they want to come in and destroy our territory and our water system and everything that makes us who we are. It's bigger than that to us. It's not about just the pipeline. It's not about just the corridor for the pipeline. It's about Wet'suwet'en sovereignty. It's about being able to carry out our lives as Wet'suwet'en people. And I know that there's that connection to other Indigenous peoples around Turtle Island because everyone wants to be able to be who they are. It seems like a pretty basic human thing to just be able to be who you are. But as Indigenous peoples, it's not. As a Wet'suwet'en person living out on Cassia House territory and Gidimt'en territory in the middle of nowhere, it's not easy, and we're being prevented from just being who we are. And so that's what I want to talk a little bit about because it's an important basis of everything that we're doing about this whole movement and how important it is to rely on our governance structure. We have 5 clans, and this is an important piece because right now, a lot of people might be comfortable and might know a lot about or even have visited Unist'ot'en, right? How many people here know about Unist'ot'en or have been to Unist'ot'en and have been supporting Unist'ot'en the whole time for the last 10 years that they've been holding it down? Yes, they're amazing. Unist'ot'en is a house group within a clan, one of the 5 clans. Gidimt'en is one of the other 5 clans. We have Lekwungen, Tsayu, Yasehiu, Gidimt'en, and Leksiyu. We have 5 clans, and within each clan there's 2 to 3 house groups. So I'm Cassia within Gidimt'en. We have 2 other house groups within our clan. And within those 22,000 square kilometers of territory that we have 38 distinct house group territories. That means that Cassia, as a house group, we have like 2 or 3 different territories throughout the entire 22,000 square kilometers of territory. Unist'ot'en do as well. They have different territories. Everybody's familiar with the healing center. Where the healing center is, that's one of their territories. They have other territories. And then Cassia House territory borders their territory. You have to go through Cassia to get to Unist'ot'en, which is why you saw what you did, which is why we did what we did. You can't get at Unist'ot'en unless you come through us first. And it's like that for all the other house territories as well. For all the other clans have territories that are being impacted right now and that would be gravely impacted should this pipeline go through and should the rest who are planning to follow suit with that. So I just want to give a little bit of an understanding about what that system is like, our governance system. So within each clan, we have our hereditary chiefs. We have Denise and Sakaise. We have House Denise and Sakaise, and this is an important piece because they are the speakers for our clan. So we have all our clan members, and then we have people that hold hereditary chief names. And they hold them because of their lineage, they hold them because of their knowledge, how they conduct themselves, the respect that they have from the other clan members. And those people help advise the house chiefs, which is a spokesperson on behalf of the whole house. They're not they don't determine and make all the decisions. They speak on behalf of the house. So currently for Cassia, we don't have a house chief right now. So we're relying on the house chief Medik to speak on our behalf from another house. And then all of the supporting chiefs are the ones that help to make decisions for the house, listen to the membership, what people are saying and the kinds of things that they want to see, and then they communicate that out, and the other house chief speaks on it. So that's how the system essentially works. That's how decision making happens. And then when we set up our checkpoint, what happened was the injunction came down on Unist'ot'en, and the Gidimt'en made a decision, Cassia House made a decision to stand up and control access to Cassia House territory. When that happened, we had another house chief speak to that in our feast hall, in our governance hall. When it goes to the feast hall, it becomes law. That it's finalized, it's ratified as law. That's our governance hall. That's our system. And then all of the other house chiefs and all of the other chiefs that are there, they witness that. And then at the end, they get up and they speak on it. And so on December 17th, we had a feast in Wickham where Gidimt'en got up and said, we're going to be controlling access to our territory. And all of the other house chiefs from the other clans got up and they supported that decision. That's how we do business. It's transparent, it's public for everybody to witness, and it's with the support of all the other house chiefs. It's them that speak on our behalf as clan members, as house members, who are having input into and communicating ideas with, and then that's finalized in our feast hall and witnessed by everybody. That's how our system works. Our system has existed for thousands and thousands of years. We've thrived from this system. We still thrive from this system. And it's based on reciprocity, on the relationships that we have with one another, and the relationships that we have on the land. It's all designed to take care of those 38 distinct house group territories, because those 38 distinct house group territories take care of us. That's what makes us strong. That's how we have come to where we're at today. Now everybody knows that our governance system has been usurped. That the Indian Act bans came in as a way to undermine our system. We know that our governance system has experienced this for many, many, many years, many, many generations. And at this juncture in time, the federal government and the provincial government and pretty much anybody will say, oh, that's too bad. You guys should figure that out. That's really unfortunate, and we don't want to see you fighting one another. You're going to have to figure that out, and please do that respectfully. Well, we shove money up the Indian Act, ban councils, and undermine the hereditary system every step of the way. And that's what we're seeing right now. That's why 20 of the bands along the pipeline route, all 20 of the bands have signed on to this project. Wickham was the last one. They held out. They held out for a really long time. And of course they were told and dangled all of this money and told over and over and over again that it's gonna go through anyway, that it's gonna happen anyway. You have to do it, that we're gonna pull your funding. And they even did the same thing to the hereditary chiefs in our child welfare, the hereditary chiefs of the Wet'suwet'en are currently assuming full jurisdiction over child welfare, not as a delegated agency, not as an Indian neck band, as our clan system. The rightful authorities to control, to have responsibility over our children and families is our clan system and our hereditary chiefs. And that's happening. And the government came and they said, if you don't sign the deal for pipelines, we're gonna take all that money away and we're not gonna give you jurisdiction over your children. So they've been doing this for years and years. We know this, it's an old trick. It's an old game, it's not new. It has a new face every now and then, but essentially it's the same thing. We know that this is happening, and most recently I was doing an interview and somebody said, some of the band counselors are scared to come out of their house. They don't want to leave their house. They think that they're going to be attacked. They're scared of the violence. They've been threatened. What do you have to say? Is this true? And I said, Wet'suwet'en people, we love our people. We love them. We love those people. And we're doing this for them whether they realize it or not. We're doing this for their children, for their children's children, so that they have clean water to drink, so that they have a territory to go back to. And like, if anything, if they're not coming out of their house, it's because of the shame that they feel. The shame that they feel because they know what they've done is wrong. They know they don't have the authority and the jurisdiction on anything, any of the territory. They have a responsibility to take care of the reserve community, like a municipality. They have no authority anywhere on the 22,000 square kilometers of territory that belong to the clans. That's it. And we are not going to be put into a position where we're fighting our own people. And currently, TransCanada is trying to sell shares, the majority of the shares of their company. And guess who they're trying to sell it to?
Mm-hmm.
Us.
That's right.
Our own Wet'suwet'en people. All the indigenous people, they're trying to sell it to the LNG Alliance, or the First Nations LNG Alliance. They want to sell it so that we are fighting our own people. So this is something that we need to prepare for. This is something that we need to ensure does not happen. And it's an old tactic. Back in the day when the Indian agents first came around and all of the colonizing systems came into play, and the RCMP were there trying to take over Wet'suwet'en territories, they started to employ hereditary chiefs as RCMP. They would give them the authority to act as RCMP within the communities, within the reserves. And basically they were paid infiltrators into our communities. But they were very specific at undermining our hereditary leadership. Today you see the same thing happen with the RCMP and the DLT, the Division Liaison Team, the Aboriginal Police, where they come in and they are purposefully and actively undermining our hereditary leadership, our traditional governance system, every step of the way, by lying to the hereditary leaders, by telling lies about the hereditary leaders, and by doing this actively on a day-to-day basis. So it's super challenging, but we know that this is happening. We know that this is something that they've done forever, and it's not something new. But I want to talk a little bit about obviously why they are doing this is to control our territories. They're doing this to try to finish their cultural genocide. through genocide on our people. If we can't be Wet'suwet'en people, which we all think, it should be pretty easy and safe to just be who you are. If we can't be Wet'suwet'en people, then there's no Wet'suwet'en land. If we can't have Wet'suwet'en governance over our territories, then there's no Wet'suwet'en people. If we don't have healthy water and healthy lands to live from, we don't have Wet'suwet'en people. We can see this happening, this genocide that's been happening to our people forever. I think in the last year we've had a funeral every week or second week, sometimes 2 or 3 in a week. Sometimes there's not enough space in the funeral home or in our feast hall to bury all our people in time. We have 2 or 3 or 4 of our people that are waiting to be buried because we have so many people because of the genocide that's happening, because of the genocide that's happened. And that continues out on our land, and it's a direct reflection of what's happening to our territory, what's happened to our governance system. And that's why we need to hold on to it so tight. We need to strengthen it so much because that's where we get our power, from the territory, from our system that works for us. At 44, that day when the RCMP came in, the RCMP came in heavily armed, as most of you have seen, with armed forces with them. They came and invaded us. They came and invaded us, and they removed us from the territory. This removal of Wet'suwet'en people from the territory has been going on since contact. When the first settlers came into Smithers area, they burned out all the Indigenous people. They burned their cabins down. They burned their houses down in Wet'suwet'en territory. People were still in their houses, and they burned them down. People died. People are still dying from the being removed from our territory. Nobody died that day. Things could have gone a lot differently than they did. People could have died that day, but we didn't. And we were removed from the territory. And then not only did they remove us from the territory, they occupied our camp. Now this is a very deliberate act on behalf of the RCMP, on behalf of Coastal GasLink, and on behalf of the government, the colonial government. A very deliberate act to occupy our space and our camp where we were living, where we were carrying out our cultural activities. There's really high stress situations when you're in, at a checkpoint, controlling access to the territory, where there's a lot of people that are really pissed off that you're not letting them through, or that they don't have free access. People are so entitled to go anywhere that they want in the world that if you stop them just to do a free prior informed consent protocol, or just to do your own protocol, they get really mad, really, really mad. So it's really, there were high stress situations, but at the same time, the first night that we sent people out, people wanted to go out hunting. We said, how are we going to feed all these people? All of a sudden, there's just a whole camp full of people. And we thought, well, if you take care of the territory will take care of you. So we sent a few guys out hunting, and everybody else wanted to go. And I said, well, don't worry, because, it's hunting. You don't always get something the first time you go out. And then Cody got really offended. He said, what kind of hunters do you think we are? Are you questioning our hunting ability? It's like, well, no, but you don't always get a moose every single time you go out. 8 o'clock that night, and it's like -20, and they come back with the moose. And then everybody else was really sad that they didn't get to go. But we spent the whole rest of the week and the whole week the next week eating all of the fresh organs, processing all the meat, showing people how to harvest all the different parts of the moose, showing people how to take care of the bones properly, showing people how to take care of the hooves properly, showing people how to take the moose nose off. Everybody was involved in that. Everybody was happy. We had such a good time. We played solstice. We had a solstice celebration. We had a New Year's celebration. We played stick games. We learned all different kinds of ways to play stick games. We ate moose nose for a special occasion, the moose tongue. We had a really good time there because we're on the land. Even though it was a high-stress situation, we were on the land doing what is natural to us. There was a Gidimt'en man who came out, and he said to me, he didn't want to come out. He thought, he actually broke up with his girlfriend because she was too radical, he said. He said, you're too radical for me. He's like, see ya. But they got back together, and so he came out with her, and he didn't plan on staying that night. And she couldn't get him to leave. She couldn't get him to leave, and he comes up to me later and he says, I've never felt like I belonged anywhere in this world. He's like, I feel like this is where I belong. And that's what we're fighting for. Him belonging to that territory because he belongs to that territory. He's Gidimt'en. He belongs there. He could feel that he belonged there in that territory. He could feel it in his bones that he belonged there. His ancestors were all there. And he knew it. And that's what we're fighting for. Because that's who we are and what we belong, where we belong. And so for them to come in and reoccupy and occupy our space by the RCMP, that was a very deliberate move. I don't know if people can really understand the depth of what that actually means or actually feels like. But to us, it's everything. To us, being there in that space is everything. The cultural aspect of it, you could say, well, we have cultural practices that we're doing here, but it doesn't actually equate to what that means when you feel it in you belonging to that space, and that's actually who you are just by practicing those things, by cutting up the moose nose, by cooking it around the fire, and everybody telling their stories about where and when they first had moose nose and who taught them how to do it and how they did it, how their ancestors taught them how to do it. Those are the things that make us who we are. I want to talk, just share a little bit, because after the raid, after that kind of violence that we've experienced, it's been a bit of a roller coaster. And what happened shortly after that, and a lot of people felt, it was really tragic. I went home after I got out of jail, and we had a debrief, and our Unist'ot'en people were bawling. They said they couldn't stop watching, and they couldn't stop crying. And they were so traumatized, and they were so hurt by what had happened. The whole nation. There wasn't one person that wasn't watching what happened to our territory and what happened to our people. The military force towards Indigenous people is atrocious, the fact that we had to experience that. But then after that, I kind of didn't feel anything most of the time. The RCMP were coming, the guns were there was chainsaws coming at us, it was horrific. But I didn't feel anything until I got out of jail. And once we were released, I found out that everybody else who was there got away. That it took them 2 days to get through Gidimt'en checkpoint. 2 days of around-the-clock work to get through us. And all I could feel was really fucking proud. Because we did our job. We were there to protect our neighbors. We were there to stand up, to get the world to notice what was happening to our people. And I feel like we accomplished that. I feel stronger than ever. I don't feel like I was defeated. I was arrested. They could throw me in jail all day long. It sucks. It really sucks. It's not nice. And they're not nice to you. And it's really cold. But I feel stronger. I feel stronger than ever, and I know that every single Wet'suwet'en person that I've talked to feels the exact same way. You can't take us down. You can't take us out. You can't take us away, because we're just going to go right back. Where are we going to go? That's our home. That's who we are. That's our home. You cannot get rid of us. There's just, you can't do it. So what happened next was that the Unist'ot'en were about to be raided. The RCMP and the military armed forces were about to, after their 2 days, to go and to, thank you, and they were going to do the same, if not worse, to Unist'ot'en. And so Unist'ot'en signed, the Unist'ot'en, with the support of all of the other house chiefs, because they make these decisions together. Unist'ot'en speaks on their behalf, and then they consult the other house chiefs. Do you support us in this decision? And they did. And they had to make the decision to make an agreement with the RCMP so that the violence that we experienced didn't happen to them and their healing lodge and the people that are in their healing lodge getting better, that are healing on the land. Now they did this under duress. We know this same old story, right? It's like the treaties. You make an agreement, we hold up our end of the deal, and they don't hold up any end of their deal. Yeah. It's the exact same thing. They never, ever signed an agreement with CGL. They signed an agreement with the RCMP to take down the gate, the wooden gate, and to leave up the metal gate. That was what their part of the deal was. Wow. They did that. It felt like somebody had died when that happened. The grief and the loss and the hurt that the whole world felt watching that we felt watching that. But they did it under duress because of what they witnessed, what the chiefs witnessed happen at Gidimt'en checkpoint. The RCMP were supposed to, their part of the deal was that they would not have fettered access. No Wet'suwet'en people would be denied access to the territory, anywhere in the territory. The other part of the deal was that they would not interfere with any cultural practices like trapping, like hunting, berry picking, anything that Wet'suwet'en people want to go do out on their territory, that they wouldn't interfere with that. The RCMP have actively went against those agreements. Oh, and that they would take down all exclusion zones because they denied everybody from coming in at 27 kilometers. So there was no media allowed. They cut off all our communications during the raid. They isolated us as best they could in order so that public and community people could not witness what they were doing. And they're actively continue to do that. And they have violated every single one of those agreements, or steps in those agreements that they made with the chiefs. And that's really reminiscent of the treaties that were signed. So what happens then when our government, our hereditary chiefs, make an agreement under duress that they're going to abide and do a certain thing with another government, and then they go and violate every term of that agreement? I think that makes that agreement null and void.
Yeah.
I'm asking about my time because I like to talk a lot. So it's an interesting time right now because all of the Unist'ot'en and the hereditary chiefs have been doing what they said that they would do. They've also inspired a lot of the other clan members. So what happened woke people up. What happened to the Wet'suwet'en is not something that has not happened in this world, in this community, to all Indigenous peoples at some point. The theft of the land, the relocation of our people, the occupation of our territories, and the genocide of our cultural practices, the genocide of our people, and undermining of our governance system, the usurpation of our governance system. We have all experienced that. We still all experience that. But they woke us up, and now all of the clans of the Wet'suwet'en are mobilizing. They're saying, we stood up as Gidimt'en and we said, no, Unist'ot'en have been doing this for 10 years and they've been standing there alone. They're not alone anymore. And we've said it over and over in the feast hall, but we have to do it on the land. We have to be out there occupying our territories, building infrastructure on our territories so that nobody can remove us. And if we do get removed, where are we going to go? We're going to go back. You cannot keep us off our territories. Nobody can keep us off our territories. And so we're not the only ones that have realized this as Gidimt'en people. The other clans are also mobilizing and actively engaging on their territories at this very moment. It's not front page news. It's not in the media. But we know it because we're on the ground. What's happening out on the territories and Wet'suwet'en lands is like a war zone right now. There are RCMP everywhere. There are DLTs everywhere. There are CGL workers everywhere. Aggressive CGL workers. And they are actively trying to push us out of our territories. And we're not going to let them. We're fighting back. We are organizing and strategizing and occupying our territories in a way that we will never, ever again be removed from them. And this is all happening under our governance system, under our own authority and jurisdiction to control access to our territories, to have full say over what happens on Wet'suwet'en territories, because Wet'suwet'en people are on the ground controlling access. Wet'suwet'en people are on the ground occupying our territories and watching the animals, watching the people, who comes and goes, watching what happens. And that's the only way that we have ever been able to secure our territories, keep them safe, is by actively being on them 24/7. That's what makes us strong. That's what makes us who we are. If we're on the territory, we're eating our foods, we're having our medicines, we're singing our songs, we're sharing the air and the water with all of our ancestors, you can't take us down. We are getting stronger and stronger and stronger. You can see it in the people that have been actively living out on the territory. We've been actively living out on the territory since 2014. Our son has been actively living on the territory since he was 2 years old. Our daughter was born there. She's lived her whole life out on our territory. I would never want to mess with them.
Yes.
And that's what we need. That's what all Indigenous people can benefit from. Reoccupying our territories. Living the way that we are meant to live according to our own governance systems is who we are. And that you can't beat. The only way that they could hammer us down is by taking that away. And it's time that we say, no, you can't take this away from me. I'm gonna fight tooth and nail to have this in my life. Every single day of my life. And that's how we're gonna win. And that is the truth. Outside.
Gidimt'en, Sakat'en, Skazet, Cody Merriman. I'm Molly's husband, I guess obviously now. But I'm from the Haida Nation. My name is Lekwungen, Jathlanis clan, the Eagle clan. I also have deep roots on Vancouver Island. I got adopted into the Numgees Nation in Uluru Bay.
Yay!
Where I carry the name Monagila. And then also into the Cloudseed Nation where I'm Wedlidi. I carry the name Wedlidi. So I'm married in, and the Wet'suwet'en have many laws, and their system is very much intact. It's continuous since the land was there. Since there was land, there was the Wet'suwet'en people on those lands. And this governance system comes from the lands, and they have many laws, and one of those laws is I'm Andamanak, which means I'm married in, I'm the spouse. And being a spouse comes with I can access her territory for hunting and fishing and those types of things. And those are like access things, but access comes responsibility. And our whole thing of what we've been doing is about a responsibility. I remember when the injunction came down and they had a meeting, Molly said what it was, what's gonna happen. We're setting up a checkpoint. Really? Okay then. So I get on the phone with my dad, I call my dad, I'm like, what do I do? He's like, well, you have to stand up for what you believe in, son. Everything has been words, now it comes down to action. And it really struck home, and he said it so matter-of-factly, and then it made me realize we weren't doing this out of something for ourselves, but out of a responsibility to the land and the waters that have been sustaining our family. And it comes down to, as we go on, people have asked, how do you continue on? And the response is, what choice do we have? Those are my children's lands. They're Gidimt'en, and also their father clan is Unist'ot'en. So my children have very ancient roots to those territories that we were on and to the lands in behind. Hitlimas, he carries the name from Numgees too, my son. He grew up on those lands. He feels comfortable up there. You watch him. And that's our responsibility. That's what it's about. That's what carries us further. it's about something that's not an individual. These aren't individual rights. These are collective rights. These are the Wet'suwet'en's responsibilities. These are what they have carried since the beginning. This flag here is the Wet'suwet'en Nation flag. It was created and brought down to 44. It had all of the clans on there, like Samus shoes up there. Some of you may have seen the images of the fire at the bridge. That's what happened here. This flag was there at 44. It held the line. And they wanted to put Wet'suwet'en strong in the middle, and Frida Houston said, no, you need to paint the territories. That's where we come from. That's what this is about. It's about the territories. So this is going to become the Wet'suwet'en's, this is Wet'suwet'en Nation's flag now. The ribbons on the side, the red and the black, are their colors, their traditional colors for their warriors. And some people say we're peaceful people, but the Wet'suwet'en have a name for warriors. It's the Bokni. They also have different warriors. They have the Lekwungen, which are like guardians. They were to monitor their borders. Their borders and their boundaries had trails that were monitored. And these are not like fictional things. When you go hunting there, these are real boundaries. You go hunting with a knowledgeable person and they'll say, you see that mountain there? And you say, yeah. That creek running down, that's a boundary. So when you leave Houston and you head out there, and there's Maurice Mountain on your left-hand side, there's a creek that runs down. When you're in Houston, you're in Lekwungen Territory, and you cross into Gidimt'en at about 12 kilometers, 14 kilometers on that road. And then you turn right at 27, and you're all on, first you're in, I think it's Anaskaski, and then you're in Kaiwanits. And then you, at 27, when you turn right, you're on Owen Creek, you're on Beatwini, which is Gastewe's territory. And then you go into Cassia House territory, which is what was 44. And then where we live, our cabin is on Unist'ot'en, which is Gidimt'en territory. And you head over, and at the river is the boundary. So these boundaries are very tangible markers that you can see. And when you cross over, you're into Unist'ot'en territory. And then behind there's two other territories, Wet'suwet'en territories, that will be impacted. One is the Sayu clan, which is the Beaver clan, and then there's Laksamishu, Klokwa. Those two territories back there, and the one that the Unist'ot'en are on is Telbeatsqua. The point is those territories back there are the three most intact territories that remain from 38. That's what remains. And that's where they want to go. And it can't be by choice or chance. So there's no roads in there for the Sayu and the Laksamishu territory. And I'm just a visitor to those lands, and I know their boundaries because they make them known to you when you're there. So they tell me, this is where you can hunt. Cody, these are your wife's lands. So we do that, and that goes into the feast hall. So I can hunt because I'll support my wife when she has a feast. Their clan, they'll have the meat, they'll have the furs, they'll go into her clan because that will uplift my kids. But the flag on the day was the first thing that I had seen after. Because I was there up until a point, and Molly said, you have to leave. We both can't be arrested, we have children. So I had to leave, and I went to my cabin, and I was there, and somebody walked over and they showed me the flag, and they said 44 has fallen. So that was the first thing I seen, and they said Molly has been arrested. And it was really kind of sad, but the news reports were on the internet, and they said that 3 of the people the media was to leave 44, and that there was 3 people remained that were locked down. And we thought about that, and we meant those people are now in the care of the RCMP. And that wasn't acceptable to us we didn't know what they were going to do. So I went down there that night. I made soup and I just brought it. I'm like, we're driving down, and I remember driving down with these two other folks, and we're talking, no, we're gonna get arrested, we're gonna say this, we're gonna say that. And I remember being 2 kilometers away, and I was like, let's just imagine we don't get arrested. And it wasn't until we were going back that when we didn't get arrested and we were almost home, he's like, do you remember when you said, imagine we don't get arrested? I was like, yeah. He's like, I thought that was the dumbest idea ever. I went down there and I talked to those RCMP, and I had seen that huge cottonwood down on the road. The bus was still there. The people were safe, and they told me how they had went back and they were taken care of. But then I seen that tree there and the bus there, and they were just standing out in the cold. I was like, yes! So, and the other important thing is, when we went down, the internet was back up and running. They had went into the tents and made sure that nobody was in there, but they didn't touch anything at that point. The internet was running. So our internet was intentionally put down during the raid. It's not a coincidence.
No, it's not.
So then, after that was like when I was like, we held the line. They did it. And I had talked about it the day after when I was going into town to help these people when they were getting released, and I was like, it's easy to walk away, and it's hard to stand your ground. It's hard to look a different power in the face and tell them, we have every right to be here, and what you're doing is wrong. And we've heard that for many years since we moved out to the cabin. It had begun that it was futile, it's going to go through anyways, but that narrative is changing. People are mad at us now. Because this project is at jeopardy. It is. It's on life support at best. And that doesn't mean that it's over. That means there's hard work to do. That means we need to continue doing what we've been doing because it's working. And I think that's the occupation of the lands. That's returning us back to the territories. Our family, we sustain ourselves predominantly through hunting. We eat all wild meat. For most, that's moose, but then we do rabbits and grouse and lynx, and we fish. We have to be like our ancestors were. They didn't rely on one product. It was a diversity of things to live with the land. And I think that's where we need to return. You know, a lot of people say we need to live off the land. We need to live with the land.
Yes, yeah.
We need a deep understanding of the lands. And that's what it's about. Our family has been about cultural resurgence. Internalizing cultural resurgence. That means learning skills. We had to learn how to tan hides. And we had to learn I learned how to bend boxes. We've been learning how to make birch bark baskets. These things are not always easily available. We need to create space for those in our lives. We need to make that an active part of what we do. And that's been a lot of work. And it will continue to be a lot of work. But I think we're reaching the point where it's doable. There's more Unist'ot'en families desiring to live how we live. And the other part of this is what comes after this. And it's what we had. We lived on the lands without the threat of industry for a little while. So we need to remove that threat of industry and live with and on the lands. That's what this looks like, and we need to support other families to do that and other clans to do that, and they are. So that's like our continual next steps is we make the nation stronger. We become a greater threat. We strengthen ourselves individually by gaining skills. by learning what our ancestors did. Our ancestors were strong. They continued on with culture even when it was illegal. We're going to continue on even when what's deemed unlawful, because that's what we must do. And then the next thing, I want to frame out how actively the RCMP has been supporting CGL, the Coastal GasLink, because I think these are the next steps that people in here can start to research it more and start to pressure the RCMP that they're not following their own laws.
Right.
So when I went down there, and they said I could get, oh, that's the other part. So went down there thinking I was gonna get arrested. And the guy's like, oh, people left their personal belongings behind at the bridge. I'm like they had a choice to grab it and bring it with them.
Yeah.
He's like, but do you wanna I was like, can I pack it up and bring it back and make sure it gets to them? He's like, yeah. So we loaded our little Nissan Pathfinder with all of these stuff when I was sitting with the jerry can because we had no fuel on my lap, and we're in there, and that's when we were loaded down in the little Nissan like this, just loaded down. Like, I was so dumb. I didn't think I thought we were gonna get arrested. But we felt like we were stealing our own stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, this is all our own stuff. It was there that day. But I was talking to the RCMP, and then the bus remained, the tents were there, and they said this stuff's, and he's like, I don't know if this was going to be made clear to you, but this stuff's going to be packed up and delivered to you. That's what the RCMP said. I was like, nothing was made clear to us. No RCMP came to the checkpoint until they all came. No CGL came after they had that injunction. No RCMP presented the injunction to us. Wow. Even after, so they said that the bus is here and remains, and the tent is here and it remains, and my understanding of why it does is because it's outside of the injunction. That's what the RCMP said. So I was on the Tuesday, the day after, and we returned with my wife on Thursday, and I was like, I asked them, if someone stood in those tents, would they be arrested? I was like, well, what's the width of the injunction? What does it say? Well, I don't know. You didn't read the injunction? And they're like, it's 10 meters. I'm like, that's what I thought. You guys know. So I was like, well, what if someone stood there? He's like, you wouldn't be arrested. Even if you were at 9 meters, if you're being reasonable, you wouldn't be arrested. So we went back on the Thursday, and the RCMP was set up there. They had their trailer there. They were burning our firewood. Still pretty bitter about that one. And we pressured them of what was the legal reason for us to not be in those tents. And they said, well, my commander said. And the lawyer said, that's not a legal justification. So we said, what is the legal justification? And there was none. So we went into those tents. We started up the fire, and I sat there, and they really did not like that. But that's when we sang Gidimt'en. We returned to that space and made our presence known in 44 that night. And we didn't have enough supplies with us that time to sustain it. So we had left. But when we came back the next day, that was a temporary exclusion zone. The RCMP tried to create a legal illusion of why we weren't allowed to go into those tents. So this came from their higher commander, from the bronze commander. And we questioned them on that, and we pressured them on that. And they finally, one of the RCMP said, this is an RCMP work zone until it is a CGL work zone. So, and one of the other officers had told me, I was like, well, are we gonna get these tents back? He's like, well, if CGL wanted to park a grader there, then they could maybe take the tents down. And that was kind of the justification that they used. So the RCMP and Coastal GasLink actively planned on how to destroy our tents and keep us out of 44. Wow.
Yeah.
They are working together every day out there.
Right.
Yeah. So those are some of the things that have been going on, and the RCMP continues to ignore the laws. And as they were taking those tents down, we said, that's our private property there. Are you going to stop them from destroying our private property? And he said, that sounds like a civil matter to me. This is a civil injunction. My wife was arrested on a civil matter. But when it comes to CGL, civil matters don't need enforcement. One of the RCMP, Constable Walker, out of the Smithers detachment, actually stated to me that he was just there for security. So when I called him a security guard after that, he then said, we're just here for public safety. But I think he spoke the truth when he said security. So those are some of the things that we've been experiencing and ongoing, that they will continue to harass us as we go through. And those are the types of the engagements that we experience quite consistently. And while they were taking those tents down, they had a moose hide in behind, and I went to go grab it. And a lady from Coastal GasLink said, "You've been read the injunction," meaning that I could be arrested for going to grab that. And so I just picked it up, and I turned to the RCMP, "Are you going to arrest me for grabbing a moose hide?" And they said, "No, of course." But those, again, we can't move around and do the things that we're meant to do without harassment. They interfere with our lives every single day still. And they're there. They created a detachment at 29 kilometer. They have zero intention to leave. Even after Coastal GasLink will leave, they want to keep a presence there. Okay. And then, but this is where we go from here. And I guess the next steps are that we're going to create cultural space. We had planned a hide tanning workshop. Those things are going to go forward. We still have the hide. Those hides will be tanned out there. We're going to teach other Wet'suwet'en how to tan hides, how to harvest birch bark. These are where we're going to go from here. And we're going to actively make sure that Coastal GasLink does not get this pipeline built.
And to do that, we need your help.
Yeah.
There's a few things. For one, we've talked about the importance of us being out on the territory. We've also talked about the other clans mobilizing. When we first put a call out for support, we asked for funds through the GoFundMe. We asked for donations in order to build the infrastructure so that we could house and feed all of those people. That was a lot. We realized really quickly how much it takes to do that. We were really lucky because we got a moose. We know that Unist'ot'en do the same thing. They have moose, they have fish, they have deer, they harvest, they have a big huge garden. They have the infrastructure to support that. They have a lot more people, and they also are running the healing center at the same time. So they need a lot of support. We don't speak on behalf of Unist'ot'en. They can speak on behalf of themselves, but we support them 110%. We also now are supporting other clans. So this is why it was important to know that about our clan system, because we're not the only, Unist'ot'en's not the only clan now that's mobilizing on the ground. Gidimt'en, Monday we had to go to court in Prince George. Monday, 12:30 a.m. on February 4th, we retook 44. 44-kilometer Gidimt'en checkpoint is now reoccupied and being held by Gidimt'en clan. And we're not the only clan that's going out on the territory and reoccupying the lands. And so we need they destroyed all of our infrastructure. We spent a lot of time, we spent a lot of energy, we spent a lot of money building the infrastructure to house that many people. And now we have to start all over again because they came in and destroyed what we had built. But we're not the only ones that need to do that. So this is where we're going to need skilled people that have skills to come and actually be on the ground to assist in the rebuilding and the reoccupation of our territories. This is where the fundraising can come in and be helpful. And there are so many amazing organizers, and there are so many amazing organizers in this room that have helped us so much to get to where we are today. And I just want all of you, from the bottom of my heart, to know how much I appreciate that on a personal level. That I wouldn't be standing here today, that my kids wouldn't have what they have today and the hope that they have today, that our nation wouldn't have the hope that they have today if it wasn't for all the people that have been standing up beside us and supporting us. Our family members, the people, our close friends and loved ones, strangers that we don't even know, all the people that are putting in countless hours and hours and hours. You people are amazing, and you inspire me and support me and our family to keep doing what we're doing. And I want you all to just give yourself a big cheer. You're awesome. And this is the long game. Like I said before, we got nowhere to go. We got nothing to lose. It's the most dangerous kind of people. But we're never going to leave our territories. It's who we are. But we need support. We need people to continue to do the kinds of actions that are happening. We need sustained actions to be happening on the ground, all over. We need direct action to be happening within different communities. The government is banking on the fact that we will all forget January 7th. They're banking on that. John Horgan said it himself.
Yes.
Like, we need to erase these images out of our minds.
Yes, yes. It's like they did with our history.
We need to keep it going.
Yep.
And we're not going to stop. And I'm asking you to keep going. I'm asking you to go harder, to go more, and to keep going over and over and over and over again, because that's what we're going to do. And I can promise you that. The fundraising is an amazing thing that we need to keep going, because the more clans that are occupying the territory, the more infrastructure that's going to be needed, the more skilled hands to help build that infrastructure, basic camp skills, really good ways to get out and support. And I would also say that it's not out of the question that for those of you who are able-bodied and willing, that if there's a call out for mass numbers of people, that be something that people are keeping in the backs of their minds. For what you can do, what you can plan for, what you can prepare for, to try to find a time and a space in your life to actually be on the ground and supporting this. To put pressure, like, we don't want to go down the road, we don't want to put all of our energy and all of our time into this colonial system that does everything to destroy us. But some folks are part of that system, and some folks are engaged in that system, and if you're one of those people, put pressure on that system. Do what you can. Put pressure on the politicians, on the MLAs, on the RCMP, who are active. They're not only complicit, they are actively destroying Wet'suwet'en territories and actively committing genocide on our people. Put the pressure on them. And then if there are any media Media we've found to be so important in our struggle because we can't rely on outside media sources when they're trying to cut us off from the rest of the world because of where we're located. So anyone that has experience, media people that are independent, where we're gonna own the material, we're gonna have control over the material, and that we're gonna be able to use it for our purposes. We need those kind of media people that can come and be there on the ground to capture what's happening in the world. So those are some of our asks at this point. To hold the DLTs accountable for Indigenous communities. I don't know if Indigenous folks know, and on the island it would just be probably one or two, but a lot of the DLTs, the Aboriginal policing forces from all over the province are in Wickham Territory right now. The bands have to sign agreements to pay them to be in their community as an Aboriginal policing, or as the Aboriginal police. The bands have the control whether those people are going to be in their community and hired to be there and paid to be there. Wow. So Indigenous band reserves and communities have the power to say, sorry, you're occupying Wet'suwet'en territory, see you later. We're not renewing your contract. So that's just another little tidbit of information in case anyone wants to use that. So those are a few of the things I know people wanted to, I don't want to take up too much time because I know people wanted to discuss after, and maybe there's another opportunity that we could go later on. I know we have to be out here strictly at 8:30, so we got 20 more minutes. So those are a few of the things that I'll just throw out there at first, and then are you going to do a Q&A? Do you want me to? If you have time, maybe a few questions. Okay. Yeah, so we'll take some questions, and then hopefully we'll have some time to discuss a few things with people. Oh.
So I just wanted to do a quick note about when people say that the hereditary chiefs all stand together, that was all of the house chiefs from all 5 clans that stood together. This is like unified movement. And shortly after, there was an event in Smithers where hereditary chiefs from the surrounding nations came. The Haida delegation came over, there was a Gidimt'en delegation, Tiltans came down, the Celtic, Wickham came up, and the Celtic brought their band chief and their hereditary chiefs, and they said, we stand together, there's no division amongst us, and we support the Wet'suwet'en. So there's this strong gathering of hereditary chiefs and of nations coming together and willing to work together for the sovereignty of our nations. They see that this is a threat to Indigenous peoples. This is more than one project. This is to try and make a point. And we need to be unified, and we need the support of everybody, and we've seen that, and we very much appreciate that, and we thank you guys for all the work that you have been doing here. Woo! Thank you guys.
All right, well, we have a little bit of time for questions. Does anybody want to, what I'm going to do is repeat your question for the audio and then give a chance for Cody and Molly to respond. Okay, over here first.
What are the chances of getting that stop work order? Any movement on that?
What are the chances of getting that stop work order?
Lily wants to answer that one.
The grizzly.
The chances of a stop work order, not certain will happen. What happened was in the Unist'ot'en, the reason why they would get a stop work order is because they don't have an AIA, they don't have an archaeological assessment for the area where they're trying to build a man camp right down the road from the healing center, which is not even where the original man camp was supposed to be. They changed the location of the man camp to get the injunction pushed through. There was no man camp scheduled to be, or planned to be in Unist'ot'en territory. Now they've moved it to Unist'ot'en territory so that they can try to convince the court that they have more at risk. There's more of the work at risk if they don't keep the injunction going. And so they have never done an ARC assessment. This is why controlling Indigenous lands is so important. They have been controlling their lands for 10 years. Who could go in there and do the assessment for the permits to be provided? If they can't do the assessment and then they can't get the permit, then the project can never go through. So Unist'ot'en has been really successful at that. Now, though, because of the injunction, they're just going in and doing whatever they want. And they said that they did a desktop AIA and determined that there was low risk. So we've talked to putting pressure on the MLAs in order to put a stop work order in place. Hasn't been successful yet. Some sustained pressure in different ways could be successful if that's something that people would like to do to put pressure on their own representatives. Also to note, though, that the Green Party has been very silent on the issue.
Yeah.
Very silent on the issue.
All right, there's two questions over here. Maybe lady standing up and you first.
Thank you, Molly, for all you do. And I just want to say that my hereditary chief is Gidimt'en, who has not signed on to the deal. Unfortunately, 9 of the hereditary chiefs in the Gidimt'en territory, including Delkamook, signed on to that deal. They will receive $5.3 million that is put in trust. So when my sister asked to see the agreement, she was told, no, it's already signed, it's already done. So is Maddie Lee next on that line? Will Maddie Lee, the Gidimt'en, be next?
No, they didn't talk about
on
CGO, but they'd be
Trustbox.
proposed.
Oh, yes, there is a proposed pipeline also to go through Maddie Lee. And Maddie Lee's been a huge support of ours. They've been coming, the Gidimt'en hereditary chiefs have been coming out and supporting at 44 at Gidimt'en checkpoint the whole entire time.
So I just want to say I'm with you and we're proud of you. Very much.
Oh, Snake Island.
So 2 questions, if I could. The first one, do you have sufficient legal support in place, or are you still looking for lawyers and people to fight the injunction and all of that?
So there are legal strategies in place. There isn't a legal team that's representing Gidimt'en at this point in terms of Aboriginal law. We have all different kinds of law and lawyers that we have right now, like a criminal defense lawyer and civil lawyers, but we also still don't have the Aboriginal law lawyers for Gidimt'en or for Unist'ot'en.
Okay, and the second question, the Unist'ot'en, going back a number of years, have had their website for people to sign up to come up to the camp. In terms of building infrastructure for them and for you and for the other clans, if people want to be involved, should they use the Unist'ot'en site, or will there be something else? How will people say that they want to get involved?
No, this is a very important issue because things are getting very complicated very quickly with the Unist'ot'en, the Gidimt'en, and then the other clans that are coming on board. Gidimt'en just got their website up and live today, or yesterday. So our website is yintaaccess.com. Yinta is YINTAH, access.com. Yinta is our word for territory, but it includes the territory, the water, the air, all the animals, everything on it. And so that would be where you would connect with us in terms of coming to build and volunteer and fundraise. And there's all kinds of good stuff on there. So please check out our website, yintaaccess.com.
Okay, the question back in the back here, and then we'll come. You had your hand up? Yeah.
My question is for the my fellow settlers in the room that are wondering how to get involved in a mass action or a direct action that Molly was referring to. And I would encourage you all to look up Rise and Resist, an Extinction Rebellion Vancouver Island. Join them, and we'll get you involved in many direct actions. We've just done a couple of office rallies and direct action occupation of the Deputy Premier's office, and got quite a few other things planned that we'll share with you. So do look us up.
So that's Rise and Resist.
And Extinction Rebellion Vancouver Island.
And Extinction Rebellion Vancouver Island. And also thank you again for helping to organize this event.
So last week I had the opportunity to actually kind of run after Carol James running down the street. There's a few of us that kind of crashed their NDP fundraiser, and I literally had to run down the street. I had to lift up my skirt and run down the street and talk to her. And there's a couple of us that went to Nanaimo to the by-election party and kind of crashed out a little bit too. And I got to talk to also John Horgan, and I asked them both a lot of the same questions, but their biggest answer was that there are NDOs in place with the hereditary chiefs in the government. Is that true, or is that just like, because their biggest answer was, oh, we can't talk because there's like, you know, commitments that we made to them, and there's stuff that we signed with just them. We're not allowed to talk about it. Like, is that just lines they're feeding us, or are there actual like orders in place that say that, you know, the hereditary chiefs and them, they're not allowed to talk about what's going on? Like, I'd like to know if that's
The government officials said that there's something with the hereditary chiefs.
Yeah, they said that all the talks that have been going on, that they can't talk about it because they made commitments, and that there's like orders in place saying that they're not allowed to talk about it. And I just like, that's one of the biggest lines that we got with both people.
So that's a really common tactic that they're doing, because they're, and the RCMP and the DLTs are also doing this. And you could see if you watch the video of them destroying our infrastructure, they come up to me and they say, oh, you should call your hereditary chief Medic. Like as if he knows something, and they had a conversation that I don't know about, and it's secret between them. That's what I'm hearing you say, is that they're saying that they have a secret agreement together that they can't tell you about?
Yeah, I figured it wasn't that way, but I wanted
That's
to
not
just get it
true.
clear to everybody that if there are or aren't any NGOs in place.
No, there aren't, and that's also a really, really common tactic that they're using on the ground and at all levels. As if, oh, well, don't worry, like, there's stuff happening, there's discussions happening, and we're dealing with it, and you just aren't privy to that information. And that's how they deal with us as well on the ground. And it's a tactic to undermine the hereditary chiefs.
Just like we went and witnessed the court, like that you were at in Prince George, and the next day we went with supplies, like 700 pounds of food, and they said the same, that you can't go through because, you know, nobody's getting through. And I said, well, that isn't what the Supreme Court judge said. The judge said we could go through. So in the same way, they said, well, now the chiefs have to agree that you can go through. Like, they have to say you can go through. So Warner was coming out, and Alexa and I wanted to go in. So we actually got through that night, and they had their big talk there. But we had supplies, so we had food. So I think they couldn't stop the food from going in. I don't know if that was what was happening on, but there were people there at 27 that couldn't get through. And I just said, well, that isn't what the Supreme Court judge said, so we are going through, and we managed to get through. But, you know, you got to set that focus. You're going through, just like they're not going to arrest us. You know, like, we're going and we're going to come back out. I think if we have it in our mind that this is right, this is the right thing to do, don't matter if they lock me up, like, I'm old, so just take that into account, that if you're doing the right thing, the work is gonna get done. This has to stop.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that we'll end on that point, because it's a good point to end on, is that not once did I ever question what I was doing there and why. I knew that we were right. I knew that we were right every single step of the way. I know that we're right now. We have been encouraged to push our Unist'ot'en laws, because we know that those are our laws, our Unist'ot'en, what we follow. That's our law. That's what's just. That's what's right. That's the law of the land. That's what comes from the territories. That's what helps us survive. And we know we're right. And we know we're right in whatever we're going to do, and we need to push that boundary and push it and keep on going in what we are doing, because we know that it's right, we know that it's good, and that whatever happens, it can't ruin us. The only thing that can ruin us is the fear and not standing up for what is just and what is right. So continue doing what you're doing, because you're right. That is the way to go. Just keep on pushing and keep on going. And we will too. We're never going to stop.